Welcome back to the How You Slice It podcast. I'm your host, Bruce, today. And on the podcast, we have Michael from St. Vito's in Nashville, Tennessee. He's doing a focaccia-style pizzeria. It's his own version of it, though. It's not what you would call focaccia or Sfincione, some other people call it. It's his own thing. And he's started this pizzeria because he wanted to open up something that was his own and unique. And he's doing that in Nashville, Tennessee. And we talk all about that on the podcast. We talk about how he had to transition and teach customers how to order because it's not the typical style of pizzeria. There's a learning curve there for customers. So we talk all about that, how he's getting the word out, and a little bit of his background because he is a chef that decided to open a pizzeria in the Nashville area. This is a very unique style of pizza. Good podcast episode with Michael. I enjoyed the podcast, and I think you will too. Let's get right into it. Michael, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for hanging out with me.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Bruce.
So tell everybody where you're from, what you do, how you do it, all that good stuff.
Nashville, Tennessee. We make a very specific style of pizza called Sfincione, or our iteration of Sfincione. Very small, 43-seat restaurant, located in the Gulch neighborhood that is a little on the side that's like less developed. That's all kind of under construction. So if anybody's been to Nashville recently, you'll know that the whole city's under construction. It's growing like crazy. So we're kind of on the forgotten side of the Gulch that's got like 10 towers going up around us.
You're in the city itself, though?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Are you a native of Nashville, or did you grow up there?
No, I'm from, like, the eastern Arkansas, Memphis area. Like, my parents were divorced, so a split time between, a very small town 40 minutes away from Memphis and then in Memphis with my mother.
Got it. What made you open up in Nashville?
Moved here about 10 years ago. I worked for a restaurant here called the Catbird Seat, and then I worked for another restaurant called Rolf and Daughters, and that was I moved here to work. So I had been in kitchens pretty much that's my entire professional career has been cooking in kitchens, and that's what brought me here.
That's great. What made you do the style of pizza? I put in quotation marks, right? Because it's a different style of Sfincione. What made you do that style?
So, a couple of things. I don't think that I was ever wanting to do pizza. I had been a sous chef for these two guys out of Memphis, Michael Hudman and Andy Tyser. They own a restaurant called Hog and Hominy. And I had been a sous chef for them, and we did Neapolitan-style pizza, and I was sort of the CDC there for a little bit, and at like 25, 26 years old, and I wasn't as involved with the pizza all the time. So, like, that was kind of my first experience. Like, I knew how to, like, make the dough, and I knew how to, like, make a pizza and fire it in the oven. But we kind of had it was like its own little kitchen. Yeah. There was like a whole other aspect to the restaurant. Really for me, I think it all started with the realization that there's really good bread out there. There's like old school trains of thought, and like I kind of, I'm 37, so I had been cooking since I was very young, 18, 19 years old, 17, 18, 19 years old, and getting into, some people think that, bread would just take up space, and then some people thought that bread was like, a real part of dining, and when I got to Rolf and Daughters, there was a bread program there, and I don't think I had ever really been around a true sourdough bread program, and I saw how many people ordered it and the work that it took and the science behind it and stuff. So I took an interest in that, and then for a few years of working with that group, we opened up another restaurant called Folk, which is a pizza place here in town, and it's sourdough pizza and all that good stuff, wood burning. At the time, they replaced their ovens with Pizza Masters now, but the same baker that was at Rolf when I was hired had moved over to Folk, and he was doing all the stuff in the wood ovens, and I was like feeding the starters and creating the levains and like all the different aspects to the bread. And I think honestly, like it was kind of just through like osmosis, because I was never the baker, right? I was like the pizza. I was like there, kind of heading up a station, leading a line, doing those things, and I just kind of like knew how to do it, just because I knew the processes.
Yeah.
And I had seen it so much over the years. So I had taken a trip to Italy right before my first child was born, and I was there for a good amount of time. Did a lot of work over there, cooked and tried to eat my way through, do all this good stuff, and then I landed in Madrid on my way home. And that was like kind of a turning point, I think, for my career of like, as a young chef, you kind of spend your entire career cooking other people's food, but like trying to be somebody else. I think with like the age of social media, everybody thinks they're Rene Redzepi making chicken wing garum and shit like that, and like, reality is like some people can do that and some people can't do that, and that's not everybody needs to be doing that. So for me, like, it really opened my eyes being how simple the food was in Italy. My family was Italian. My grandparents, my great-grandparents from Sicily. My mother's maiden name is Tarantino. All of my cousins' last name is Giacona and Tarantino. Like, I kind of grew up in that area, in that big Italian family type of thing.
Right.
And I cooked for some good Italian restaurants, and I always knew I wanted to do an Italian restaurant, but it was like very eye-opening, like the simplicity of their food, like just over there. So that kind of changed me a little bit, and then, long story short, I guess, continuing with the long story, but we were in Madrid, and I ate this bread that really blew my mind. And I decided, like, I needed to figure out how to make it. So I did a bunch of research, and for a little bit, I just made this bread that we use now as our Sfincione base. I made it as bowls and batards and like bread. It's like all naturally leavened, high oil content, sugar, no commercial yeast whatsoever, high gluten flours, and like super high hydration level, anywhere between like 95 and 110%. And I decided, like, let's tackle this. I wanted to try and make it, and that's what I did. I practiced and practiced to try and make it as bread, and I got really good at it. And then one day during COVID, when I didn't have a job, I was reading a cookbook of mine, a really old one. I just grabbed it by chance, called Made in Sicily by Giorgio Locatelli. And there's a chapter on Sfincione, and I read it.
Describe what Sfincione is before you kind of continue with that.
Sfincione is a style of, I don't even know if they would consider it pizza. Sfincione is kind of its own thing, but over here, it's kind of pizza. But traditionally it was created. So the reason we're called St. Vito Focacceria is, number one, I didn't want to be called a pizzeria. I wanted to be something different. And number two, the nuns at San Vitus in Palermo invented Sfincione style. So it translates to St. Vito. So I named it after them. And traditionally, Italian Americans are going to cook it for holidays, Thanksgiving or New Year's, really. New Year's a lot. It's going to be like a dense dough. It's going to have caciocavallo cheese, and it's going to be covered with a tomato sauce that's made kind of like with onions and anchovies. And then it's going to be covered in pecorino cheese and breadcrumb. And that is what I started making. So when I read that chapter in Giorgio Locatelli, I had some bread dough on the counter, and I thought, I've eaten this before in my past family. I know what this is. And Nashville is an emerging market, doesn't have anything different like this. And I think that there is a need for it. So like I knew that, there was kind of like this rebirth moment during COVID, right, where everyone was kind of it's like, wow, sick of the bullshit. Like, and that moment for me was like, I'm tired of cooking someone else's food. I'm tired of the fine dining world. I'm tired of the pretentiousness. I'm tired of this. Maybe I just want to make one pizza, and I want it to be like pizza. This special dough I have, tomato sauce, breadcrumb. I did like fresh oregano.
I'm sharing your Instagram on the video here if you're watching, because these photos look amazing.
And that was kind of that was it for me. It was like I wanted it to be like incredibly simple. I wanted it to be different and engaging with people, but I wanted it to taste like pizza. I wanted people to be like, oh, it's not round and it looks different, but at the same time, it tastes exactly the way I want pizza to taste. So that was the goal in the very beginning, was doing that, just making it taste like a very familiar product.
Do you know Alberto from Forza Pizza?
Yeah.
He's the only other one I've ever heard or seen kind of make Sfincione on Instagram.
So when I started this business, because I started it out of my house, he was my first person that I ever reached out to, said, hey, I need a mixer. What is happening? What do you do? What do you have? How do I get started? And from day one, he's been a huge supporter of ours. Has come down with his mother to eat.
Really?
I've gone to Chicago to hang out with them. Really become pals. Always giving me advice. Always kind of like looking out. Great dude.
Yeah.
Great family. Love doing business with him. Bought my oven from him. Buy my mixers from him. We'll, if we get to grow, we'll continue to buy my product, my stuff from him, just because, he's a good guy. He's loyal, and he has been incredibly supportive of us. So
yeah, I know. I've known Alberto for a long time. I can concur with all the things that you said. He's a good dude.
Yeah.
But so I'm sure there's been a learning curve to educate customers on what you do at your restaurant, since you're not really doing something that a lot of people are familiar with.
Totally. Yeah. We're still going through it. I mean, there's always a learning curve. Now we don't do one style. We only have 4 pizzas on our menu, and the rest of it is like kind of like plates and entree type stuff. We're so small and the kitchen's tiny, and like the bread takes a lot of time and a lot of work. We're not balling up 250 gram balls. We're portioning, 1 kilo loaves into 100 pans, and then we're we don't use any bread proofers. We do everything.
Just leaving it out to proof on its own?
Yeah. And, we're baking it. We're par baking it before service starts. We serve lunch and dinner. There's a lot that goes into it. So it's a very detailed process that takes a lot of organization and a lot of discipline and a lot of patience, especially for, young bakers or people that have never dealt with it before. And then at the same time, like me, it's not like I've opened up a ton of restaurants.
Right.
I've opened up restaurants, but not as like the owner and head chef. I've opened up as sous chefs, and I've opened up as, a member of the team and stuff. But it's a totally different world when you're on that other side. And, there's a lot of irons in the fire, and there's a lot of plates to juggle at the same time, and getting everybody trained and having expectations and standards is very difficult. But at the same time, like, we're a completely open kitchen. I mean, you're basically sitting in our kitchen watching us cook as you dine. And, then it's that learning curve of like educating the customer and then learning how to speak to people. Like every night, like if you can't talk and have a conversation with someone, you can't work with us.
Really? So your cooks are talking to the customers as they're dining?
And cooks running food too.
I like that.
So food's done. We kind of like, it's a very different way. It's a very different restaurant than what a lot of people are used to. And I've had like some guys come through that are like worked at some really good places, and I'm sure they're like fantastic cooks, but they're fantastic cooks in certain settings. In the setting of this is your station and this is what you do and this is what you only do, they're probably fantastic. They're probably awesome and they're good at it for me. But in the context of the way we work, a very small space, very limited staff, and everybody does a little bit of everything, you're expected to do a little bit more and pull your weight. Some of those guys just can't do it. Like, it's just difficult for them to be able to, take calls from expo, cook the food, put something else down and be able to run it to the bar and explain it to a customer. So
that's what you guys do. So do you do dine-in only, or do you do delivery takeout as well?
We do delivery. We only are delivery takeout for pizza only. We don't do any of our other dishes delivery takeout. We used to. And, I got tired of dealing with it. Too many people, would put in an order for 7:45 on a Friday night when we're absolutely slammed, and then they wouldn't come pick up their order until 8:45, and then they'd send me an email asking for their money back. And it's like, no, you don't get your money back when it's an hour later. Like, we cook fresh to order. That ticket comes in, dude, we're making it. Like, it's like automatic for us. We move so quickly and so fast in that setting. I'm not moving that to the back just for us to get confused and lost. Like, you put an order and you come and get it, dude.
The pizza probably is better served delivered than anything else you make as well anyway.
Yeah, it holds incredible. I mean, the only issue we have is they're so big that
how big are they?
Don't close in the box.
Do you use a 16-inch box, or do you have like a special box that's made?
I had to have custom box.
Was it like the Little Caesar square, like the long boxes? Because they're usually like a long. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not the 16-inch square box that everybody's used to.
Nope.
What's the percentage of dine-in versus delivery? Do a lot of people get it delivered?
99 to 1.
99 dine-in versus 1% delivery?
Nobody wants delivery. Nobody orders it delivery. I mean, I probably do $1,000 a week in delivery sales.
Would you want to do more?
I think it's an extra form of revenue for sure, and I'd love to do more. But people view our restaurant. People want to be in our space. Like, if you're coming in town this week and you come by and you look at it, you'll see, like, I designed it myself. We have Gucci wallpaper. It's very cozy. It's all wooden. There's no like white tile and plants. It's very like cozy and dark and kind of moody. So people like sitting in our space for it. And as much as I hate to say it, people kind of view us as like, we're that like one craveable thing. When people are like, let's get pizza. And they're like, oh, well, let's get Domino's, or let's get, another place here in town, right? Round Pie, or like, or some sort of round pie. Smith & Lentz makes a great pizza here. Like, oh, let's just get Smith & Lentz. It's easy, but like for us, our clientele is like, oh, let's get St. Vito. Like that's like what they think of. It's not like, oh, let's go get pizza. It's like, let's get St. Vito, because you can't get it. There's nothing like it anywhere else. And it's just so different that's what people want. They want to come into the space. We've had a great retention for employees, and we have so many regulars. I mean, we feed. We feed some of the same people every week. Like, we have like 2 sets of couples that kind of live in the neighborhood that eat with us every single Friday night.
That's great.
Every Friday night and eat with us.
That's what a lot of pizza businesses want to do, though. Like, I think I posted something on Instagram today. It was like, you're a good pizza place when you made it when, and I like listed out a bunch of things. And you sound like you've done that. Like, you made it a place where people want to go hang out. When people say they want to go to a specific place, your name comes up. When people come into town, they're like, hey, I got to take you here. It's like the place to hang. Those are the things that make a good pizza business. And I think that you've obviously done that.
Yeah, I mean, there's always room for growth. I mean, I definitely want to increase my revenue.
What do you
I've
think you
seen
need help on? Like, what do you think you could do better?
lunch. We need to do better lunches. We have we run lunch Wednesday through Sunday, and lunches are hard. And there's so much construction around us. Like, there's a hotel that's going to open up soon. There's a 40-story tower going up behind us. There's another one that's about to start. There's 3 other projects less than a block away. So, like, coming to that area, you just never really know, like, what street's going to be open and whatnot. At night, it's usually cleared up and they're not
Right.
working. But, like, during the day, it's kind of a pain in the ass. And then,
So
another
is that
thing
just a
about-
matter of circumstance? Like, that's not something that you have control over. You just got to kind of
No.
play it out.
Yeah. Another thing that I think is a bit of an issue, and it's a Nashville problem, is locals don't go downtown much, and locals don't want to go. They don't want to deal with it. Like, we're a mid-sized city. We're not a big city. We're not Chicago. We're not New York. We're not LA. We're not the Bay Area. We're not Atlanta. We're even smaller. We're 2 times smaller than Austin. But there is so much going on. I mean, so much happening. Like, every single night, there is a huge concert. Especially in, like, the month of October. Like, you get in, like, the fall when it's nice. I mean, like,
Yeah.
this past weekend, you had Jason Isbell at the Ryman every single night. You had Vampire Weekend at Ascend. You had ELO and Maggie Rogers back-to-back nights at Bridgestone. You have Predators games. You had Titans on Sunday.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, like, insane how much happens in this tiny little town, tiny city. So, with that, it's like traffic's a motherfucker sometimes, and
I
like
bet.
people around you just sometimes are like, man, I just would rather not try and get around, downtown.
I can totally understand that because I live
Yeah.
in Boston. So Boston's kind of a similar city, right? It's a small city. It's not a big city. And I live 15, 20 minutes outside of the city. I think I go to Boston, the city itself, once a year. Like, I never go there. It's because, like, all the things that you just said, it's just hard to get in and out of and not convenient. There's no places to park. And if you do find a spot to park, it's very expensive to park your car there. And you can take the train in and out. Like, there's the commuter rail, there's the train, but, like, that's a pain in the ass. So I can totally get what you're saying. It's just, like, it's hard to do that.
We don't have public transportation here. I mean, we have buses, but we don't have a rail system. And we don't have, it's just, Nashville up until 10 years ago was smaller than Memphis. I mean,
Wow.
it wasn't even now it's, I talk about that kind of a lot. Like, we're seeing a lot of restaurants close in Nashville right now. And I think there's just there's a multitude of reasons why. Number one, probably the economy. Number two, inflation's probably hit people pretty hard where they don't want to spend anymore.
Right.
And number three, you have so much competition. I mean, there's an incredible food scene here. You have some of the best restaurants in the country opening up all the time here, and there's a lot of competition. Like, you better be good or you're not going to make it anymore. And it's not like Nashville 10 years ago, or where you could just open up a restaurant and you'd be open for the next 15 years. It's not like that. Like, you open up now and you better be marketing yourself, and you better be good. It better be delicious, and people better come back to you, want to come back. If not, you're kind of doomed.
Right. Do you think you would do it all over again in the same spot, or do you think you would have put yourself in a different area, sort of make it a little bit more convenient for people to get in
That's a
and out
tough
of?
question. Sometimes sometimes I'm like, I live in Inglewood, East Nashville. We're about 5.5, 6 miles from the downtown.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of good restaurants in East, and I have all my friends and families and stuff over here. We'd probably do really, really well over here. But it's a long game for us. My location is small. I got it cheap compared to prices now. $20 to $30 cheaper than what's being rented around me now.
Wow.
Per square foot. And we signed
How many
a
square feet is
15-year
it?
lease. I only have 1585.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have 15-year lease. So yeah, the first couple years, construction, all this stuff is going to be really tough. But the surrounding area, one of the reasons why I jumped on the location was that like the density. So it's going to be the densest. It's going to be the densest neighborhood in the city. It's 14,000 people I think live in like a 3-block radius right now.
Wow.
And in the next 5 years, 26,000 people will live in that 3-block radius. So like
That's crazy.
To me, small restaurant that will in time have kind of like that neighborhood vibe for that neighborhood. We're a sit-down restaurant where you can come in and get, a delicious tuna crudo or a great pasta dish, or you can come in and just grab a slice and a glass of wine and get out of there. Like that, and that's what I want to be. Is just like, if you're coming to have like, no matter what you choose, it's going to be delicious. But like if you're celebrating, you want to sit down, you want to have like good technique driven plates and bites and stuff. We're that spot. But if you just want to, we sell a slice of pizza. If you just want to have a slice of pizza and a glass of wine at the bar and get out of there, that's us too.
Yeah, there's not a lot of places that do it like that. There's a lot of places like that's one or the other.
I think we have an advantage because our pizza is so different, and like a slice in our restaurant weighs the same as like a Neapolitan style pizza somewhere else.
Yeah, that's great.
I mean, like seriously, like it's a slice. Our pizzas weigh 1.1 kilos without anything on them.
Wow.
So then once you top it and if you cut it into a slice, you're getting a pound of food. So you can get a classic slice for $10 and then you can order a glass of wine for 14 and you can walk out of there full.
And it's good quality too. Like the good quality pizza makes you full but not feel like gross or
yeah, it's great quality. I mean, it's everything we do. I mean, we don't buy a single vegetable that's not from a local farm.
How do you source those? You just go out and find the local farmers that are there?
We have tons of farms here. Tons. And we have a middleman called Nashville Grown that basically sources within 60 miles of the city.
Got it.
And they'll deliver to you on Tuesday and Wednesday or Tuesday and Friday. So you get online, you get to see what everybody has offered. You pick what you want quantity wise, and they deliver it to you. Yeah, I mean, and then I work directly with a couple farms, Sugar Camp and Harpeth Moon Farms, and they just send me a list, and I tell them what I want, and they deliver it to me on Wednesdays, and Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and even onions, even celery, even parsley, even dill, like all the things that you can buy commodity. That's I feel obligated to support that ecosystem. I know it's important for them. They're all family owned. There's only a few of them, usually like a married couple, a couple kids, and like they're out there, picking and harvesting and washing and like taking pride in what they're doing. Well, we do the same thing and take a lot of pride in what we're doing. So it feels like the relationship, that is a relationship that I want to cultivate instead of, it's not always about buying the cheapest thing and having the highest margin. I'm willing to, if I sell enough pizza, that does that for me.
Right.
My pizza is kind of my bread and butter. If I sell enough pizza, then that means that I can buy a little bit higher quality vegetables for all of my other stuff. That means I can get, JP Graziano Jardiniere shipped down here from Chicago. That means that I can buy tuna from Japan. So that's kind of how it works with us. We're definitely
what kind of sauce do you use?
Quantity.
Yeah, I like that. You probably taste the difference too. That's why you're so busy. So that's a great thing to do. What kind of sauce do you use on the pizza?
7-Eleven.
Do you really?
Hell yeah, it's the best. I'm a diehard 7-Eleven guy. I need that sponsorship too. Stanislaus, hit me up. Yeah, dude, I've done all the tasting and I think the Chow brand is pretty good and Costa Rosas are the best for sure. But I don't have $70 a can. I can't do that. I talk about quality, but dude, those California pear tomatoes are awesome. The other part of that is people are always oh, well, there's so much water in them. Well, use the water. Don't complain. We use the water. We harvest every single time we strain tomatoes. I take all the water and I put it in the oven at 175 degrees for 24 hours, and it reduces into the best tomato conserva. And we'll use that. We'll combine like one of the dishes that we've done in the past is like I'll combine that with fermented honey and fermented ramp liquid, and we'll make this like tomato aggro that will baste, fish with for an aquapazza, or we'll use it as a base for a pasta dish, like just super sweet and sour tomato, for just a regular spaghetti dish or something. Like you gotta use that stuff. It's too good.
Yeah, I like that. I like that you're thinking out of the box too, and like using it for different. I don't think a lot of people who own pizzerias don't think like that. They're not like restaurant people who are making different kind of dishes. They just look at it like I make pizza only. That's kind of it.
Yeah, a friend of mine who just opened up a restaurant in Woodbury, New York, called Hanna Pizza Wine.
Yeah.
Danny, we cooked together at Folk. We opened it up, and he was just like, he's the best pizza guy I've ever been around, and he's like the best mind for stuff like that. And he told me one time, it's really easy for a chef to be a pizza guy, but it's really hard for a pizza guy to be a chef.
That's interesting.
And I thought about that sometimes. I'm like, I don't know, but like, pizza guys are a different world. I don't come from the pizza world. I come from the chef world. So like, me stepping into the pizza world, I think that's, the pizza guys, like, they're pizza guys.
Yes.
Like, they're not anything else. Like, most of them are not anything else. They're pizza guys, dude. Like, and I learned that. And I think we kind of texted back and forth or DM'd back and forth about some things. And I was talking about, like, I felt like we weren't getting very much, the pizza world wasn't, like, accepting of us or, like, really, like, reaching out to us to do stuff. We've really had to push hard to be like, hey, we make pizza.
Right.
Even though that's a high thing, we sell more pizza than anything, like by a long shot. But I wonder sometimes if that was kind of why. If that has something to do with it a little bit of like people being like, they're not really a pizzeria, they're a restaurant. Or they're a chef
it might.
Restaurant.
I know that there's like a few people in the pizza community who are like, and I'm not, I guess I'm in the pizza community, but I'm not like entrenched in like the behind the scenes of all of those different magazines and shows and stuff. I try to keep an outsider's perspective and be open to all angles. And, but there is a little bit of that. There is a little bit of like a club, right? And if you're not in the club, then you're not going to get the exposure that maybe you should or you deserve because you're not part of that club. But you're right. Pizza guys are pizza guys. Like they're like, that's all they really know for the most part.
And like at the end of the day too, it's like, we're busy. Who cares? The other, and also like, you make good food. If you make good food, why should anyone give a shit? You know, it's like you make good food.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. Ultimately, like if you make good food and you're profitable and you can make money, like that's the point, right? Like it's different.
That's right. I've had a lot of like. I love like Peyton from Mission Pizza, like the guy like Brian Sturts from Adopo, and like. The guys from Tribute out of San Diego, like they came in, like I've met all, like super nice. Everybody that comes in, everybody's just like, very, very welcoming and just like awesome, and for the most part, I'm not. No one's been like a dick to us, but I know that we did a Pizza Today feature recently, but man, we had reached out to them like so many times, just like. Check us out. And finally it took like me hiring a PR agency for them to like respond back and be like, all right, let's do this.
Let me ask you this. What's the goal with that? Like why even care about Pizza Today?
I don't know, because it's got a lot of readers and I think it would bring us, I think, it's something that I've read in the past and I've always kept up with. And it's like, I'd see things in there and I'd be like, oh, that's interesting. Let me look up this place, and like, the more broader, the more people we can reach, the better business it is for us. So, like, I just want people to know about us. If you come into Nashville, a city that's not really known for having good pizza, like people who come into the city, what do they want to do? They want to party on Broadway and they want to go eat barbecue and hot chicken. And for me, it's like I want to kind of cement myself and plant my flag of like, hey, we're doing this thing that's like totally different. And it's totally different from things you get in LA and Chicago and New York. Like, it's totally different. And you can only get it here. So come try this. Like, that's kind of the reason why I think it's important to do some of that stuff.
Well, I'll tell you what. So it's working for you because I put out on my Instagram, hey, I'm going to Nashville. Where should we go? I think 2 or 3 people responded that we got to hit your spot. So it's working.
Yeah.
I know it feels like sometimes when you're in the trenches, it's not working fast enough. But there's definitely people talking about you and have been to there, and it's had a good enough experience to tell me about it and tell other people about it.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I mean, yeah, and patience, it's a virtue. You just gotta keep plugging and keep doing what you're doing.
Patience is something that not a lot of restaurant owners have.
Yeah, but you're gonna have to. I think about that all the time. It's like you just have to. Like, the circumstances with the construction and where we're at and like how small we are and blah blah blah, all that stuff. Like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that you've got to deal with, but like, here are the facts. Like, you're doing pretty damn well in your first year and a half open.
Yep.
You have a great staff. You make a great product. You're unique. You're in a growing city, and you have a 15-year lease. There's no rush to open more restaurants or get all upset about things. Like, if you don't think things are going your way, it's just like, work hard, keep your head down. You keep doing what you're doing, in time, everyone's going to notice. So it doesn't really matter.
Do you like it? Like, do you like going to work?
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. A lot of people I know have very busy pizzerias and they hate their life and they're miserable.
Well, I get tired, that's for sure. I mean, I'm because our restaurant is we've got a lot more going on than just pizza, and yeah, I mean, I definitely have my days where like I'm very tired. Like, I worked quite a bit the past few weeks, got us back open in 7 days, didn't really have full days off for a while. Yesterday was my first full day off in like probably like 30 days.
Wow.
And, I wanted to be left alone.
Well, I appreciate you joining me on a podcast after your first full day off.
Yeah, well, I got a 5-year-old and I got a 2-year-old. So, and that's that plays into the restaurant big time for me. Family is incredibly important. I want to be home with my kids. I want to be present with them, and I want to see them. And, I think my staff definitely understands that because I talk to them about it all the time. And, my management style is a little bit different. I think I wholeheartedly believe that in order to get better, you have to make mistakes. And there's got to be some screw ups. And like, I understand that, like, sometimes it's pivotal and sometimes it sucks and you're going to have to deal with the repercussions of people messing up. But like, the only way that you're ever going to grow and you're ever going to learn and people are ever going to have any sort of, confidence moving forward is when they are kind of given the reins and then they do it. And then they realize like, oh shit, this isn't even as scary as I thought it would be. I got to like wake up and realize sometimes that like not everybody's like me. I'll take it on the chin and I'll keep moving forward and I'll just kind of bulldog my way through to make everything work. Not everybody's like that, so you kind of got to tiptoe a little bit, but like, I'm a huge believer in failure. You got to fail. If you don't fail, then you're not going to realize what doesn't work.
Right.
And then retaining the information, like, you got to be able to retain it. If you retain that information and you know why you failed, don't do it again. You keep doing it and then, now we got problems.
That's right. Yeah. Make a mistake once, maybe twice. Don't make it a third time. Make it a third time, you're just being an idiot.
Yeah. Yeah. Now we're having a long talk.
Yeah, that's right. This is awesome. This is really fun.
Or a short one.
Michael, I think your website is saintvito.nashville.com. On Instagram, you guys are saint.vito_focaccia. We'll link all that up in the show notes here, but I definitely suggest you go follow you on Instagram because you do take some great photos and videos there. And if you are in the Nashville area, definitely go stop by, which I'm going to be in a few days after recording this, so I'm definitely going to stop in and say hello.
Yeah, come see you.
But I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're busy and you got a lot going on, so I appreciate you taking the time and joining me on the podcast.
Of course. Yeah, it's been great.
Don't go anywhere yet. But I'll link all that up in the show notes, and this podcast episode should be out in a little bit. Thanks so much, Michael.
Yeah, dude. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael, for joining me on the podcast. That was a great episode. Hopefully you learned something. I actually got the chance to go to visit St. Vito's after we did this podcast, and I do have to say the pizza was amazing. Now, I don't know if you necessarily call it pizza. It's more like a focaccia or a Sfincione, but it's his own take. But the potato one that he had that we showed at the beginning of this podcast, unbelievable. So great job, Michael. You're doing a fantastic job down there in Nashville. Can't wait to get back there and visit you again. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, like this podcast, leave us a review. If you're listening to this on Spotify, obviously you can just hit the 5 stars there. If you listen to it on iTunes, leave us a review. Let us know if you like these episodes we've been banging out here on the How You Slice It podcast. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you right back here next week.